All right, let's jump into this Prozac video. This is from the New York Times. It's called Prozac Revolution in a Capsule. It reminds me of a 1994 book called Prozac Nation. I believe that was 1994. Yeah, there's some. I don't know if this will show the Prozac commercials, but they were literally advertising Prozac in the 80s and 90s or late 80s, early 90s as like happiness in a pill. And just this one pill will take all of your problems away. It'll take all your symptoms away, which is what a lot of big pharma's medication does. Is it's psychoactive medicine that helps you either hyper focus, like the amphetamines you get, or it takes all the pain away, like Prozac or some of the opioids that they prescribe. So again, I always like to say, because there's always someone who brings it up, nothing, absolutely nothing against anyone who takes any psychoactive medicine and it helps them. It helps them function in life and have a better quality of life. And we're not against that. What we're trying to do is look at how our mental health care and how our health system is structured from a systemic level. And then, we have to make analyses of how the pharmaceutical companies are pushing medication that may be harmful to a lot of people in order to make a profit, like the opioids and stuff. So this isn't to make anyone feel bad or to shame anybody or to say there's no value to this medication. This is just to give a systematic analysis of the healthcare system and look at some of the ways in which it's messed up. And oftentimes that includes medication. So yeah, this is last time we talked about a therapist who had left the industry because he felt like the way mental health care is structured is so messed up. And now we're looking at Prozac Revolution in a Capsule. Carlos has seen this. I have not.
It's the hottest psychiatric drug in history.
Prozac.
Prozac, a wonder drug that works wonders.
At the end of 1987, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved a new antidepressant, and Prozac hit the American market. Advertising and word of mouth helped boost the drug's reputation, and Prozac became the it drug of the 1990s.
Models in the latest fashions are said to look Prozac deprived.
Before long, the name was on everyone's tongue.
I was on Prozac for a long time.
And, it seemed, everyone was using it.
6 million Americans using Prozac right now.
The greater the drug's popularity, the more it seemed to symbolize.
Prozac moves from being a successfully launched pharmaceutical product to being a true cultural celebrity.
You know it's the holiday season in New York City when the drug dealers are selling more Prozac than crack.
So how did this little pill become the icon of an era?
For people who suffer depression, it's been hailed as a virtual miracle.
Almost immediately after Prozac's launch, it was clear that it offered a promising alternative to available treatments for depression.
I started giving it to difficult patients who hadn't done well somewhere else, and people thought I could get help with something I've lived with for years.
The drug was an enormous medical breakthrough. Prozac emerged as a pioneer in a new category of drugs called SSRIs that targeted one chemical in the brain, serotonin, instead of many.
It plays a crucial role.
So I think this is where we should point out the article that Carlos did analyzing the serotonin theory of depression that's been accepted by the mental health care industry for a long time. So they've all based their treatment and their care and their medication like Prozac on this theory that depression and other mental health issues happen because of a chemical imbalance in the brain, particularly low levels of serotonin. So what's the answer then? To give medication that increases serotonin. But what the studies have found, and now a meta-analysis of all the studies on this, is that there's absolutely no evidence for this. There's no evidence that depressed people have a chemical imbalance in the brain. And in fact, depression can stem from all sorts of factors, especially environmental factors, life factors, overwork, stress, things like this. But as we always say, the mental health system has no ability to tell you, take a day off of work, or, put your kids into daycare instead of, or so you can take a few days off from childcare or whatever. There's nothing like that. So their only option then is to give people medication that numbs their symptoms and makes capitalism, exploitation, and alienation more bearable.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm done.
I'm reading off of one of my footnotes in the article. Studies have shown that approximately 80% of the responses to the medication was duplicated in placebo control groups. And similar conclusions were arrived at in recent studies, which pooled 73,000 patients and showed that only around 15% of the time do the drugs work better than the placebos. So again, a good portion of it is just people thinking that the pill will work, and you can literally not give them the pill and it would have the effect of the pill a large amount of the time. The researchers concluded that patients with depression are likely to improve substantially from acute treatment of their depression with drug or placebo. Although the mean effect of antidepressants is only a small improvement over placebo, the effect of active drug seems to increase the probability that any patient will benefit substantially from treatment by about 15%. So it's a big chunk of it is coming from the fact that people think that this pill that they're about to take will help them, and then they end up, changing in ways that end up reflecting that belief. They end up making that belief in the fact that it will help into a reality.
For sure.
Role in mood, appetite, and many other brain functions. Many antidepressive drugs have severe side effects. It was largely a lack of those problems that has persuaded doctors to prescribe Prozac to 2 million Americans.
One of those was student Elizabeth Wurtzel.
I had been on other medications before that didn't work nearly so well, but it really changed everything. There was one morning when I woke up and I felt like the idea of being alive didn't seem so awful. It was an amazing turnaround.
The drug led her to break the historical taboo about depression and write a book about hers.
I knew it was pretty safe to tell the story because I knew a lot of people would relate to it. I think that's what I was betting on. If I wrote it, it would make people feel better.
Wurtzel quickly became the Generation X face of the drug.
Seems like everyone's doctor is dealing this stuff now.
But Wurtzel's book was not the only one that captured the public imagination. Psychiatrist and author Peter Kramer wrote his from the perspective of the treating physician.
People who do well on it may say, this is my real self. The transformation is not away from the self, but towards some ideal self.
He then went on to speculate about how Prozac might change us in ways never before expected.
I thought, what will happen if we can do this with people who've never been depressed? If you could put someone on a medicine and he or she would become more socially adept. And I coined a term, cosmetic psychopharmacology, where the analogy was cosmetic surgery. So a medical procedure done for something other than treating illness.
Kramer's...
Dang, that is so good. That is so good, because that's kind of what it is. I've heard this theory that, if everybody starts taking Adderall, if we're all on stimulants, then to compete, because we live in a competitive society that pits us against each other, then everybody's going to want to take Adderall, right? If I need to keep up with the other people in my workplace and they're on a drug that helps boost them, I'm going to want to get on that drug too if I want to keep up. So it kind of raises the level of everyone. And like I've been prescribed Adderall before, and what I kind of learned was like I was just being too hard on myself before I took it, right? Well, for one, I needed to figure out strategies like note-taking and doing a calendar in my phone that helped me keep track of things, right? So there are certain strategies, real things you can do to help yourself be more in control and more organized and less stressed out. But also I was just beating myself up about everything and really just about not being perfect, not being ideal. And when you take the drug for a while, you can feel like, I can do anything. But then it wears off and you crash and the side effects are terrible. And, I haven't taken it for forever. And what I realize is I can still do the same things. I just have to give myself rest. I have to understand that I'm a human being who needs rest, and I can't just work, nose to the grindstone all the time and do everything myself. But our system kind of makes you feel like you need to be like that. And then the only way to feel like that, like you can do everything all day, is by taking drugs. So people are taking these. I like how he describes it there as almost like a cosmetic surgery for your brain. Just trying to make yourself this idealized version of what you should be like in your head. Yeah.
And what's always left out of the conversation is what is the reason that makes what are the reasons that lead people into seeing Prozac or antidepressants as an option. What makes people depressed, right? What makes people have certain mental health issues? That's always left out, or when it's treated, it's like reduced to okay, one chemical imbalance. I mentioned it last stream. It's what Richard Levins and Richard Lewontin called Cartesian reductionism. You're just trying to reduce everything to this one biochemical process. And that's a poverty of outlook, right? It's, science, however much we want to say, especially with the hard sciences, that it's disconnected from politics and ideology. It's not. It's not. The hard sciences are not disconnected from bourgeois ideology. And you see this in these theses, which took hold of medicine for decades on end. As someone mentioned, now no one believes it or treats it in that reductive manner. It's developed a little more, but what method is it that takes things and reifies it from everything else, takes the fact and removes it from the factors that allowed the fact to arise, and then just deals directly with the fact? That's the bourgeois method of analysis, right? That's fundamentally anti-dialectic, or at least a specific kind of bourgeois method of analysis, because Hegel was uh, quote unquote bourgeois philosopher, a little more revolutionary, but bourgeois philosopher, and he was a dialectical thinker, and you have others as well. But it's a fundamental flaw of anti-dialectical thought reflecting itself in scientific investigation, right? And if instead of doing that, you ask, well, what are the social conditions which make this plethora of factors, how they impact biochemical processes, how then biochemical processes reciprocally impact the social and the attitudes of people, and what are the sort of relations of reciprocity that are conditioning the fact that I'm seeing, which is, okay, X person is depressed. If you look at that, you come to the radical conclusion that the forms of intercourse which dominate our societies, that means capitalist relations of production, are what is leading people to these positions. People are exploited, they're alienated, they're oppressed, they're disconnected from nature, they're disconnected from other people, they're disconnected from their work. They don't feel that they can engage in creative productions any time, any moment in their life. So all of these factors, which we covered last time, so I don't want to go on a long spiel about it. All of these factors contribute to these mental health states that people find themselves in. And you cannot explore that because for a few reasons. One, if you do that, you have to condemn the system. And ideologically, the system would very much prefer for those people to just be pilled than to be radicalized because they realize that the answer to their problems is overthrowing the existing order. Secondly, that's not profitable for the medical pharmaceutical industrial complex either, right? They make profit from selling people these pills. It's $1 trillion industry. So these reasons have to be seen dialectically, and besides that, it's a poverty of outlook. You can bring up the question of their forms of thinking lead them to these erroneous conclusions. So it's there's fetters that are created by capitalist relations on productions, on production itself, and on these other areas, but also on science. Science would flourish much more if it was under a socialist society where it would serve people's needs and not profit, and where the method of analysis would be the correct one, the method that allows you to engage with truth as best as possible, which is the dialectical materialist method.
Yeah, and we're seeing that with the advancements that are coming out of China.
Precisely.
Narrative about Prozac being able to change people's essential selves took hold.
Many claim that it transforms them, makes them more calm, more confident, more productive, somehow better than well.
Get in the hole. That's what I'm looking for. That's what makes you come back. I found that taking this medicine, this drug, I became a different person.
But it wasn't just the promise of a personal metamorphosis that made Prozac a household name.
There's nothing wrong with you that can't be cured with a little Prozac and a polo mallet.
Balzac was Engels' favorite writer.
Here we go. Here comes the Prozac.
Prozac's popularity wasn't just the result of a medical breakthrough, but also of a marketing one.
Prozac's marketing helped popularize the idea that our moods are neurochemical and that there are things we can do to change them.
Prozac took the mystery out of the science. It talked
Eddie,
about
can you pause that?
how the drug worked.
Another.
I want to address this question real quick by S.M. Palazzolo. I wonder what amount of antidepressants are distributed to depressed people in China, Cuba, Venezuela, Vietnam. I did in that serotonin study, the second part of it was looking at the alternative, which I looked at Cuba and the various other forms that they use to treat mental health issues, which not only does it emphasize prevention, but it also is focused on the environment, the immediate environment, so the family, the social environment, so their communities at large. And usually you have other activities that are the first go-to besides the pill, which are like certain like yoga and other exercise related things that are gone to, or if not like therapy, like discussion. And there's so many other things that are transformed before they try to transform and play with to see if things change and if the person overcomes their mental health issues before they go to the pill. So it's not that they're like anti-pill, and we shouldn't be either, but we should realize that there's all these other conditions, and if we can begin to adjust them and see if those work and changing the outcome of the person's depression or anxiety or whatever, we should do that before we start pilling people up.
Right, but the American system jumps right to pills because that makes money for big pharma. And actually, as the therapist we were watching on the last stream said, they actually get mad at you for weaning people off of pills. If you start giving people treatment that works outside of pills, the insurance companies stop paying for it, which is the exact experience I had with a long-term illness growing up as a kid. Anything that worked that wasn't a pill, the insurance didn't want to pay for. And then they mentioned the effect of marketing these drugs like Prozac. They were and I'm going to show you guys after this Prozac Revolution video, I'll show you a Prozac commercial that was famous. But they literally market it like it's a cheeseburger or something, you know, like it looks like a McDonald's commercial, and they're selling you antidepressants. And this is an excellent article that I drew from a lot in my Journal of American Socialist Studies article, Journal of American Socialist Studies 2, available on MidwesternMarks.com, by the way, analyzing the American healthcare system and the opioid crisis, which is different than Prozac. Prozac's an SSRI or whatever you call it. But they spent millions and millions of dollars, not just on commercials to market these opioids, but on influencing academic institutions, influencing physicians and pushing them to prescribe it in higher doses, which is one of the main things with opioids is people were being prescribed it in just insane doses, 3, 4, 5 times the amount they were supposed to. And now it's making it really difficult to wean off. And, you know, once people have to quit taking it, they go through these horrific withdrawal symptoms. So it's just had a horrible effect on our country. And the Sackler family just yesterday won immunity. The courts gave them immunity from being punished and held accountable for this. So they dosed our entire country with opioids. Now a bunch of people are on heroin and fentanyl and dying. And the richest family in the world, or the Sackler family, is still one of the richest families in the world, and they're immune from any repercussions. And it's the same justice system that throws people in jail for nonviolent drug offenses that Joe Biden pushed, for that's something that Joe Biden led the charge for, was cracking down on nonviolent drug offenses when Joe Biden's own son has been doing drugs for the last 20 years and has been getting off scot-free. And when Joe Biden's donors are dosing the country with drugs and not being held accountable. So that shows how the bourgeois courts work in tandem with the bourgeois medical system.
It's the same thing we mentioned in the article on censorship. The misinformers are the ones waging the war on misinformation, which is actually a war on truth. And in terms of drugs, the largest drug cartels are the ones waging the war on drugs. And I just want to refer to Molly's point here. Okay, that's probably why they don't want you to self-wean off of those the doctor can push you back. Yeah, check out the stream that we did last time. The doctor that goes over this, that the video that Eddie showed, he said it wonderfully. And he basically said at one point that a lot of the times, not all of the times, of course, but a lot of the times what people need is a friend, someone they could just speak to. And that's one of the central components of the Cuban treatment of that. Like when you have these activities that you promote, like dancing and ballet and, chess and all these different social activities, you allow these people to develop hobbies, and out of those hobbies engage with other people and become friends with other people. And it helps remove a lot of not all of them, of course, but a lot of the issues that they have going on, which are again, rooted in social isolation, alienation, and all these other phenomena.
Another way the drug's benefits were sold to the public was through its name. Eli Lilly hired branding agency Interbrand to come up with a memorable one.
Prozac has two syllables. The first syllable, PRO, was designed to suggest professional. The AC is designed to communicate activity. Coupled with the Z, it just sounds much more powerful and more effective as a name.
But it wasn't just the name that gave Prozac a leg up.
One of the first places that news about Prozac appears is in popular financial magazines, things that are reporting on its potential blockbuster status, how it's going to make a ton of money for its producers, and this kind of creates this buzz.
It was remarkable. New York Magazine had this pill on its.
You saw what they mentioned about the name, the importance of the marketing and the name Pro, so that it sounds professional. That's interesting because the way that things are labeled and the names they're so important in our age. And the imperialists know this. They wage their wars on humanity and people fighting for freedom and self-determination. They wage it under the names of freedom, and we're gonna liberate this, and we're fighting for democracy, and we're spreading democracy. So like their usage of words, they realize that it's so important.
Cover. I don't think anything like that had happened before.
As media coverage of the drug grew, stories about a possible link to suicide began to circulate. In 1991, the FDA convened hearings on the issue.
I finally admitted myself to a stress center. I begged them, lock me up because I'm going to die and I don't want to die.
No conclusive link was found, and the sale of Prozac continued.
This medicine had the career arc of a celebrity, that it was sort of overhyped and then demonized and, trying to find its level through the press.
Ever since Prozac was introduced 5 years ago, it has developed what amounts to a cult following.
Before long, as other SSRIs began to eat away at Eli Lilly's market share, Prozac ads began appearing in general interest magazines rather than just medical journals, targeting patients, particularly women, instead of just their doctors. And commercials ran on TV for the first time.
People wanted control. They wanted to talk about their successes, their personal successes. And Prozac spoke to that.
Talk to your doctor today.
And it also introduced something new for sale. Since the 1950s, consumer goods like cars and washing machines had become symbols of success and happiness. Now, there was something else.
Prozac is saying that happiness itself is available for purchase and can be one of these things that defines what it means to be an American and have that.
And I see people talking about how pharmaceuticals are one of the most powerful industries in America today. And now rather than cars and the white picket fence being a sign of success in American culture, they're saying it's literally taking Prozac. It's having this pill, so it shows how the base of production, control or affects culture and society and what we view as success and what we view as normal. As long as the pharmaceutical companies are marketing these drugs to us, it's going to be ingrained in our culture. They're spending millions of dollars to ingrain it in our culture via marketing. Same thing with opioids. The same way that advertising took off, at the beginning of the last century, and it made a lot of these consumer goods, like cars, even, sort of a part of the American way of life and something that every American family had. So it's just an example of the mode of production conditioning our culture. And then on the other hand, the superstructure, this Prozac nation, as they call it, helps condition the relations of production. Because rather than getting depressed and turning to revolution, people take this Prozac and it takes all their worries away for a few hours or whatever. And they're better able to function under an alienating mode of production.
Yeah, and I draw the analogy in the article with that phrasing, like you're buying happiness in a capsule. That's Brave New World Soma. I don't know if you had it's just like the happy juice.
It is.
That's literally what it is. And that was like a dystopian novel, right? So it's
Great
so
novel.
Yeah,
Much
it's a
better
great
than
novel.
1984.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Do you have anything else to say? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. That's it. Yeah.
Aldous Huxley also had his wife inject him with LSD when he died, straight into his veins. So he had to be tripping balls. I wonder how that helped his depression.
That American dream.
And the more people who claim their share of it, the better Eli Lilly's bottom line. In 2001, with the patent set to expire, they launched a new drug for a new problem.
Serafem is not really a new drug. It's just a new name for the popular antidepressant Prozac, now repackaged with a distinctly feminine look. Some accuse the drug manufacturer of trying to create a new market for Prozac by grossly exaggerating premenstrual problems.
Think it's PMS?
Did you take my keys?
Maybe it's PMDD.
Soon the airwaves were full of ads for other drugs promising to treat problems most of us didn't know we had.
I had restless leg syndrome.
Latisse, the first and only FDA-approved prescription treatment for inadequate or not enough lashes. Your lashes actually grow.
You do have a whole bunch of new pharmaceuticals coming out to enable people to do things that they like to do. So to be able to eat a bunch of cheeseburgers.
Time to see your doctor about America's most prescribed acid.
And think of all the money that goes into this. Not just the production of these more cosmetic focused pills, but the money that goes into marketing them. That all could be going into cancer research, or it could be going into combat heart disease, or it could be going into anything that would be more beneficial to the medical field, nutrition research. But instead, all the money is going into men's hair growth formula and, these pills that take away your appetite so you can eat a bunch of cheeseburgers or whatever. It just shows the sort of consumerist, frivolous nature of production under capitalist society, consumerist capitalist society.
Control medicine.
Or to be able to have sex. You have drugs like Viagra coming out. These are responding to genuine human needs and desires, but those needs and desires hadn't always been configured as illnesses the way they were during and after the Prozac era.
I think Prozac made people very aware of the possibility that medicines were going to step out of their bounds and be used by people who maybe had some quality that wasn't rewarded socially, and to move to some state that was better socially rewarded.
That's a long way around to saying that it was going to be used for profit. Just to fill up people to make a bunch of money.
Yep. Tell them that their desire, their want, their alienation is all a mental health illness. Slap that label on them.
There
Make
was so
them feel
many
like they can't
debates.
function without the meds.
There was
Sorry.
there was so many debates going on in economics when advertisement really took off. Like especially with the libertarian free market laissez-faire trends, because the question was like, how is this a free market now that there's so much consumer manipulation? And the way that they rationalized it was that what advertisement does is not create new desires, but help show people the things that they already desire, or the things that they would desire if they knew about them. So it's not a market manipulation; it's a market enhancement.
Here is, so people know how this was being marketed to consumers. This is a Prozac commercial that when I saw it a few years ago, I could not even believe it was real. I believe we had to watch this for my healthcare administration class, but I couldn't believe this was a real thing. But this is where the budgets of pharmaceutical companies are going. Largely, I don't know what percentage of their spending, but a huge amount of their spending is put towards marketing rather than research and development. And this is the kind of stuff they're producing. Ask yourself if you think this should be a part of the healthcare system, if this has anything to do with healthcare.
Brother and sister, together we'll make it through. Oh, yeah. Someday a spirit will take you and guide you there. I know you've been hurting, but I've been waiting to be there for you. And I'll be there just helping you out whenever I can. Everybody's free. Everybody's free. Oh, yeah. To feel good. Oh, to feel good.
Oh, to feel good. The whole world is Prozac. God is Prozac.
Oh my god, that is
Isn't that
so
unbelievable?
Who comes up with that? And then what board decides like, yeah, good idea, let's do that? Like, how disconnected do you have to be to not like realize that that is insane? Let's pill the whole planet up.
Right. They're literally saying the answer to, all your problems is this pill. You're just going to have pure euphoria. Then they have the woman taking care of her baby. We know life is hard, but take this pill. You have the young girl laying on her bed, maybe going through something traumatic, as we all do when we're growing up. Growing up is hard. You got all these hormones because you're going through puberty and you're emotional as shit, and it's just hard, right? But they're like, take this pill, take this Adderall, take this whatever, so you can be perfect. You can be the perfect kid and sit in school 8 hours a day without moving and enjoy every second of your life as if that's what life is, and it creates kind of this idealistic idea of what life should be. Like, I should feel good all the time. Like, you don't have to feel good all the time. Sometimes in life you feel bad.
Right.
And that's, if you deal with it and you're okay with it, eventually you'll feel good again. But yeah. Thank you so much, Ross. Who's your daddy? You are Ross. I really appreciate that.
We're gonna have that in the diplomas because we're planning on giving diplomas to all the people that participated in the basics of Marxism course at the end, and we got to add something to Ross's diplomas, like Ross, Midwestern Mark Sugar Daddy, Ion Coil. That would be the diploma. I do that with Noah whenever I have to send them the new books. I put Noah, bag of bananas, Krashivik.
Love it. Thank you so much, Sam. These $2 are for Ross's profile pic. That's great. Thank you. And Sam, I know you said you're gonna maybe dip out for a sec, but if you have a song, or you'll have a song. So if we're still streaming when you come back, we'd love to play the song. So
yes, please read his blog.
Yeah, Ross's blog is awesome. Yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to touch on in terms of the Prozac or the mental health care stuff?
I mean, there's one video here that's just like a minute, and if I think it's the right one, it's the one that's like a commercial. It's set up like these pill commercials, but then it's like try nature. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's like, are you depressed? You have anxiety? Try nature. I don't know. It's just a minute and 25 seconds. I don't know if it's the right one because it's from the National Geographic, so it might not be the right one.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out? Well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you Getting Outside comes prescription strength Nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, Nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what the you're doing with your life.
If you are overly cynical, jaded, or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of Nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
Clickable withdrawal. You saw that one? I think nature is clickable.
I love it. That's my antidepressant, getting sunlight every morning, going for walks when I'm feeling cramped in my room.
Same here, man. I have to take at least a 1 hour walk each day. From what I've read, Marx did too. He was always walking around London with Paul Lafargue, especially towards the end of his life, Lafargue and Engels. And yeah, it's just so important to be out there in nature. And what's funny is that when I first had the baby still does it, but when he starts crying, if you take him outside and you let him like see the grass, not touch grass, but see the grass, he'll like stop crying. And he absolutely loves nature. Like, you take him to a store or something, he'll start crying within like 20 minutes. But if you take him out to a natural park and you like walk him through it, he won't cry at all. He just absolutely loves nature.
That's awesome. The Grenada Revolution has the best music on YouTube. Interesting. I've never seen that. Thank you, Lemonheads. Zorro. Appreciate it. Get some sun. Yep. Touch the dirt. Yeah, sometimes I crawl around. I do like bear crawls outside because I've heard it's good to touch the grass. I'll just probably look a little bit crazy, but whatever. People know I wrestle in this town.